530. So now I have one number left. It's this $50 right here. I've got to decide what to do with that. And in this case, it is a fee that I pay on top of the cost of the tile or in addition to the cost of the tile. So we're going to add it over here to the coefficient and the variable. And that would be my final equation. Let's look at 16. Bob has $300 in his checking account. He needs a total of $1,250 to pay for new garage doors. If he has 4 months to save, how much must he save each month? So again, here's a good key word, a total of. So that means that the total that I have got, or in Bob's case, Bob has to save $1,250. Now, he has 4 months to save. So if we know that, what we're trying to figure out is how much he needs to save. So we're going to use D for dollars. I'll put that right down here. So if that's our variable, we know that he has $300 already saved up. So he has 4 months, and he has to save an unknown amount each month, plus the $300 he already has saved, and the total of those two terms has to equal $1,250 so that he can pay for garage doors. And that takes care of number 16. On number 17, we are starting to move into those wonderful centering questions, dealing with some measurements. So let's pretend that this is your desk. Please appreciate my artwork. And that desk is going to be 20 inches wide. So it says how many inches are from the edge of the desk to the center. So this being the center. So you're trying to find the distance from here to here. So that would be half of 20. And so for number 17, it would be 10 inches. Number 18, the length from one side of the kitchen to the other is 22.4 feet long. The window is 2.5 feet wide. How many feet of wall does Harvey have? So if we sketch this out and you say, okay, here's how much wall you have, and then it says you've got a window that's 2.5 feet wide, so we'll just pretend that there's our window. So if this whole distance is 22.4, and then up here, sorry about that, then up here you've got 2.5 in the window. So if you take the 22.4 and you're going to subtract out the 2.5 because this is the wall space that you're given, but you've got to subtract the amount of wall that's going to the window space. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to borrow. I about jumped ahead a step. And so you have 14 minus 5, and that gives you 9. Remember, when we add and subtract decimals, we keep those in line. So 1 minus 2, I've got to go next door and borrow. So that puts 1 there. So 11 minus 2 now gives you the 9, and then you're just going to bring down the 1. So on this wall, you have 19.9 feet. Number 19 says Gibby is building a house and is deciding where to cut out the wall to place the window. The wall is 20 feet long and he wants the window centered on the left half of the wall. How many feet will there be from the edge of the wall to the center of the window? So it says use the diagram below to help you. So if you have a total of 20 feet, then you need to determine what the space is right here. So that would be half of the 20 feet. Half of 20 would be 10. So now that you have the 10, you are trying to determine what half of that would be, because you're trying to find the distance from the edge of the wall to the center of the window. So that would be, you remember how I used to, once upon a time I could make those little cute hash marks there. So half of that distance, so the answer would be 5 feet. Again, you're dividing by 2, you're dividing by half, because when we center, we're finding the center point. We divide the parts equally into 2 parts, and that's how we find the center. Number 20 is a little more complex. You have a total width up here of 10 feet, but if you notice, all your other measurements are in inches. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert this from feet into inches, and so we multiply it by 12. So let's think of this as 120 inches. It says Sheldon wants to hang a picture in his bathroom. You know, Sheldon would be very, very precise about where that picture goes. The picture is 12 inches wide. The entire length of the wall is 10 feet. The door is 36 inches wide, and there is a window that is 32 inches wide. The space between the edge of the wall and the window is 5 inches, and the distance between the opposite edge of the wall and the door is 10 inches. And if you look at the diagram, you can see all those things that were just listed there. If sometimes the wording gets too much, then you may want to take a minute, read a sentence, identify it in the diagram, and then work back and forth between those two things. How far from the edge of the window does Sheldon need to measure if he wants to center the picture? And you notice right here it says that's where he wants to center the picture. So I've got to find out how much space I have right there. How many inches from the edge of the window right here over here to the edge of the door. So I've got to get rid of this and this and this and this. So I'm going to take my 120 inches and I'm going to subtract those. Now, depending on how you want to do it, you can subtract one thing at a time. So you can say 120 minus 5 is 115 minus 32. My pen's being difficult, not wanting to work with me. That would give me 83. And then I can subtract the 36. And that would give me 47. And then I can subtract the 10. And that would leave me with 37. Another alternative is to do the opposite, to add 5 plus 32 plus 36 plus 10. And then take that answer and subtract it from the 120. So when we take those numbers and we get the 37, then that's where we can start looking at how we're going to center that. And again, guys, remember when we center, we're going to take the distance left, and we said that that was going to be 37 inches. And it says, how far from the edge of the window does Sheldon need to measure if he wants to center the picture? So if I take the 37, that distance, and I take and divide it by 2, then you will end up with 16.5 or 16 and 1/2. I think that that is an incorrect answer. I think I just told you all a big fat story. Be 18.5. Alright, that looks better. 18.5 inches. Sorry for the confusion, guys. When we look at 21, 21 looks like it's kind of scary in some ways, but you all have done these before. What we're doing now is the only thing that's really different from 6th grade is we've thrown a negative number in there. Remember, when you multiply or divide, if your signs are different, you're going to have a negative. So we're going to start with this part right here in the front. The reason I'm starting with this, we're using our order of operations. Order of operations, multiplication and division are equal to one another. So I'm going to take negative 4/5. Remember, you never really divide by fractions. You multiply by the inverse. So I'm going to change it to multiplication, and then I'm going to use the inverse fraction. So instead of 2/3, I turn that upside down and make it 3/2. That number right there is going to give me negative 12 tenths. Now I have a decision to make here. 12 and 10 can be reduced. We can make that into an equivalent fraction in lower terms. So we can divide both of those by 2. If you do that, you would end up with negative 6/5. This might be helpful if you sometimes struggle with your multiplication facts because you're dealing with lower numbers, and most of us have learned our 1 through 10s facts pretty well, so that can make that easier. It is not a required step, but it can help you, and it is a possibility. So now I'm going to take that fraction, and I'm going to multiply by the 7/8. Remember, when we multiply, we're just multiplying numerator times numerator and denominator by denominator. So negative 6 times 7 is negative 42, and then 5 times 8 is 40. Now, we want to go ahead and reduce this. You do not have to make it into a mixed number, but we do want to go ahead and reduce it. And the way that we're going to do that is we are going to divide both of these by 2. And when I do that, I'm going to get negative 21/20. And that is the correct answer. On the next one, I have got some work here in parentheses that I need to take care of first. So I have 4/3 minus 5/6. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that first. So 4/3 minus 5/6. But remember, when I add and subtract fractions, I have to have my common denominators. So in this case, it's going to be a 6. So the second fraction will stay as is. Then this one right here, if I have to multiply this times 2 to make that a 6, then I multiply times 2 here, and that makes that 8. So now 8 minus 5 is 3. Denominator stays the same. I can go ahead and reduce this and make that into 1/2. So now I have 4 times 1/2 times negative 3. So I'm going to start right here with the 4 times 1/2. So I can set this up as such. So 4 times 1/2, so 4 times 1 is 4, 1 times 2 is 2. This can be simplified to 2/1. And again, when you multiply by 1/2, that's the same thing as dividing by 2. So I could have also said 4 divided by the whole number 2. Now I'm going to multiply that by the negative 3. And I'm just going to put that in fraction form since I have the fraction here. You could go ahead and change the 2 to a whole number if you'd like. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Denominator stays 1, and so that would just equal whole number negative 6. Excuse me, guys. All right, so we're going to pick up with 23. Question number 23 has, again, it's order of operations. You have fractions. You have some negative numbers mixed in, but the basic core idea of order of operations is still going to be the same. So we're going to take what's inside the parentheses and we're going to solve that first. So then I have 3, and then I'm going to use my common denominators of 20. So I have 24 over 20, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same over here with these. And again, common denominators here, we will have 40, so 24. I'm trying to make everything fit there. Now we can take care of what's inside the parentheses. So 24 plus 5 gives me 29. So I'm going to bring the 3 down, and this is going to become 29/20. Connect that there. And then you're adding to it, you have this negative 2 multiplying what's inside the parentheses, and what is inside the parentheses is 39/40. So now I've got to take care of multiplying what we have here. Before we can add them up, we have to multiply because of the order of operations. And so on the first one here, you're going to end up with 87/20. And then on the other side of that one, you are going to end up negative 2. Let me pause for just 1 second. Okay, sorry about the pause there, guys. So I'm going to take the negative 2 and multiply it by the 39/40. At that point, I'm going to get a negative number because I have a negative times a positive, and that is going to be a negative, and you're going to end up with 78/40. Now again, all I'm doing right now, even though my numbers are large, all I'm doing is I'm adding these two fractions, which means I have to have common denominators. So I'll change